Shalom and welcome. My name is Les and thank you for joining me here on the Chef Prepper YouTube channel. And today, instead of making a recipe, we're going to talk about prepping in general. What is prepping? Why would people prep? So, the generic answer to that is because if you look at the board for just a second, you might say that here, this is now in the present. This, on the timeline, this is a timeline, would be something that people call when the stuff hits the fan. And then here, on the timeline would be like the aftermath of this, and we'll call this the event. So first of all, people generally prepare or get into the world of preparedness because they think that while we're in the here and now, that in the future things are going to happen that may not sit real well or be in their favor from some kind of a change, whatever that change might be. And so they think that if things are going to be happening down the road, that they might need to, or if these things are going to cause them to have to do something different than their everyday, day-to-day way they do things, then they might need to get something to help them get through the aftermath of whatever that event might be. And so that's what we're going to talk about. This is kind of like the big picture. So first of all, if you don't think that the world is changing, this probably isn't a video that you have any interest in. But if you're watching, you probably think that changes are coming, and change in and of itself is neither good nor bad. But when those changes come, our day-to-day things we do now may or may not work. And if you're in the world of preparedness, you probably have the mindset that the changes that are coming are not going to be real good. They're going to be detrimental. And so, first of all, you have to kind of be convinced that there's a change coming. Maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe next month, maybe 10 years from now. But there's a change coming in which the day-to-day things you have and do now won't help you very well during that time. And so, this is what people get prepared for. So now the big umbrella picture, so to speak. Again, the here and now. Here is something that happens that brings about what people call the end of the world as we know it. Not the end of the world as we know it. Which happens gradually even if there isn't this big event. Just think of your great-great-grandparents. The world they knew probably isn't the world that we know, and nothing catastrophic, apocalyptic has happened. Things just change. But there could be some kind of a big event that brings about something new for us. And that's what we're going to talk about getting prepared for. Not the actual preparations, but the big picture of why and what could be. So, we're actually, this event, it might be a day. It could be a week. And it could go from there on out to a year or years. We don't know. But what we're pretty much preparing for is not particularly the event, but the aftermath. The aftermath of that event, whatever that event might be. And so if you are new to prepping or been in it for a while, hopefully this will still help. But if you start getting on websites, YouTube channels, books, TV shows, whatever, movies, it seems that getting from here to being able to survive or getting prepared for the aftermath is this overwhelming. You know, you will see and hear stuff something like, well, you got to have enough food, if you can tell what that is, for 3-5 years, maybe more, of dried goods, beans, rice, wheat, corn, etc. You need enough water, which to get you through this time, or you need some source of water that will keep you supplied, and you do. You need to be armed well enough to take on an invading army. A lot of times that's the information you get. You need to be able to set up your own ER room and do surgeries. Now, I'm not saying you need all that stuff. I'm saying when you first start investigating this stuff, you might come away with the idea that I've got enough food for 3 days and I got to get all of that. But you don't. You don't have to do all that at first. So, anyway, if you've ever went on a hike or went camping, backpacking, walking a trail, you know that when you start at the trailhead, you don't get to the end point of taking step 1 and then step 2 is here. It's step by step by step by step. So instead of getting the overwhelmed feeling that you got to start from here and you got to get prepared for the aftermath, if the event were, say, World War III or worldwide economic collapse or whatever. But what you can do to make things a lot simpler for yourself, first of all, keep in mind that getting prepared is not a 100-yard or 100-meter race. It's an extended, very long marathon. And so, to help you get from here to where you can survive, and remember, this aftermath of the event, you know, it will end at some point. There will be another world as we know it that will emerge out of this. Of course, we don't know how long this will be. Could be 6 months. Could be 5, 10 years. We don't know. But on the other side, there will be the new world as we come to know it. So we're really preparing, for the most part, for this, the aftermath. And should the event be a long, drawn-out time period, then you're preparing for that as well. But primarily, this is what you're looking at, trying to get prepared for. So instead of getting completely overwhelmed, let's look at this a little bit different, and then we'll finish up with this video. So let's get our timeline back on here. And now instead of when an SHTF event, now let's just call this the event. And here's the aftermath. We don't know again how long that time period is, but so as to not get so overwhelmed, let's now consider that the event is, say, a winter storm. And it didn't bring about the end of the world as we know it. It just had us with a power outage for 3 days. So now the winter storm is the event. The aftermath is no power for 3 days. So now, I'm not saying that you need to get prepared for 3 days without power. Most of us have went through this, and you can without doing any further preparations. But you can learn a routine and a habit of how to get prepared for something and do it on a small scale. And then once you've got prepared, say for the 3-day power outage, back, if you think of what I had up here before, the true big event that brings about the end of the world as we know it. Well, now instead of going from here to the aftermath, you've got this. That's not maybe not too far, but you're farther along the path to getting prepared for the big event. Okay, and so now, as you're considering the event as the winter storm, and the aftermath you're going to have to survive through or get prepared for, it's just 3 days without power. So now that you know what you're getting prepared for this time or this way, then you can start considering, okay, what are we going to eat? You know, you might have cereal, cans of food, whatever. For this event that we're talking about, you won't need hundreds and hundreds of pounds of wheat and hundreds of pounds of rice and beans and all those things. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you won't need that for this. So how are you going to eat? How are you going to cook this food? Which is primarily what our channel is about, remember? How are you going to stay warm? And on and on. We're not going to go through everything that you would do, but we may do that in our next video in this series of concepts and ideas. And so, you know, you can break it down just a little further. You know, food. Do you have any babies in your household? You know, do you have children? Anyone with special diets and so forth? How are you going to cook it? Now, to cook food here for 3 days, you're probably not going to need 20 cords of wood and a wood-burning cook stove. But a propane Coleman type heater or a stove would come in nice and handy at this time. And so, you know, and after you get through this, lighting, power's out. You're going to need candles, flashlights, or lanterns or something, whatever your lighting of choice is. And so, you know, once you consider this, you get yourself prepared for a 3-day event. Then next month, 3 months later, hopefully not that long, you know, you can your event then might be, say, a thunderstorm, or if you live close enough to be where hurricanes could come through, it might be a hurricane, etc. Those kinds of things. And now, whatever the event's going to be this time, the aftermath maybe is no power for 7 days. Maybe you're going to be without power for 7 days. And then once you get into the routine, the habit of how do you take care of food, how do you cook it, how do you stay warm, how do you light your house, how do you get to somewhere else if you need to get out of where that is, even for the 3 days. Now that you've done it once for 3 days, you're going to just basically apply the same concepts and routine, so to speak, to a 7-day event. We'll need a little more food. We might need a little more fuel. We might need to be able to cook inside and or outside. We might need an additional stove of some kind. Butane for inside. Those kinds of things. And then you can slowly but surely keep going. 7 days, 10 days, 14 days. Eventually you'll find yourself where you'll actually be prepared for a 30-day event. Of which, by the time you get to the 30-day event, should we actually experience a 30-day aftermath, then we got to step up some things. But we'll talk about those later, because at a month without power, transportation perhaps is down, then we're going to get into perhaps needing more people with us, a little bit of security stuff, and so forth. But we'll talk about these as we in other videos. So, I hope this helps a little bit if you're new to the world of prepping. If you're not, maybe you got something from it. But we will take it from here, a very basic, big picture scenario. We'll get more specific as time goes on. So, thank you. If you like this video, I would like to ask you to subscribe and like the video. Thank you, and we will see you soon.